Did you ever want to get the dirt on someone? I have a professional dirt getter coming up next.
Hello. No, I'm not Barry Horvath. My name is Gigi, and I'm happy to help you with real estate.
Hi, I'm DeLynn Gaston, and this is Moving Forward TV. Thank you so much for joining us. And as you can see, I have a guest host today. This is GGD, known as GGD, all around the community. And I know every one of you watching out there already know Gigi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
excited
you so
to be
much.
here.
I know. It's been a long time. We've been wanting to have you on for a long, long time. And, you know, schedules are hard. Well, you're one of those mobile notary people who go like all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, DeLynn, I have to go to Clearwater Beach today.
We met each other one day in Clearwater.
We
We were
did.
both at the same real estate agent.
I know. Remember
Yeah,
that? That was
yeah.
so long ago.
That's crazy.
Well, we've both been in the industry for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
So today's show, if you didn't gather by the dirt gathering teaser, we have Gigi, also known as the Duchess of Dirt.
That's me. That's me.
So many of you attend our monthly lunch and learns that we do, and we ask for some feedback and what else would you like to know about. And one of the more popular things that we get, as you know, Gigi, because Gigi is always there with us as well, one of the most popular requests that we get is to know more about title, exactly what it is, what goes into it, how it works, and all of that stuff. So it is kind of lengthy on how to do that. We are going to do it in a lunch and learn as well, but we figured let's have Gigi on the show and she can kind of go over it too, so you can always kind of hit rewind and watch this again if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, so let's go kind of like dive right into it,
Okay.
Gigi. Let's just start right, I know. Let's start talking right away. So listing agent sells the house, everybody's happy, they sign a contract, they call you.
Yep.
What
That's where
happens?
we get started. The first thing that we do when we get the order is contact the parties that are involved, specifically the real estate agents, find out exactly how they want us to work with them and their customers. Some agents want you to deal only with them, to
Right.
speak with their customer.
Right.
Some people are like, do your thing, whatever it is.
Yep.
Other people are very interested in finding out exactly what you need. So basically, once we get the order, we confirm and contact all the people, get all their information, which means, hello, seller, my name's Gigi. I would like your social security number, please. It happens that way sometimes. That's the first thing that we have to ask. So one of the things that we do is get an introduction from the realtor so that they feel comfortable knowing,
Right.
that I'm going to call or one of the other girls in the office.
And I would imagine at this point is where you kind of confirm how they want to hold title, or at least plant the seed so they can think about it and give them the different options. Because they ask me that question, frequently. You know what? You need to ask a title person that, because I don't know all the
Yeah.
differences between, joint with right of survivorship and, all the different. There's lots of options.
Right. And actually, we're not attorneys, but that's something that's pretty important to find out. I mean, if you're going to put the property into a trust, or are you going to hold title with your husband, or are you going to buy with your sister as joint tenants with right of survivorship? So those are different ways that you can take title, and I can't really advise them. They really need to let us know, because when you're dealing with a title agent, we're not an attorney.
Right.
We're not a real estate agent.
Right.
We're not your mortgage advisor. We don't know exactly what you need until we kind of ask, and then you let us know which way you're
Okay.
going to go with it. So yeah, that's very
Okay.
important to find out exactly how does the buyer want to take title. We also need to know, how does the seller have title, because if the situation is if it's if it's already joint tenants with right of survivorship, did both of those parties sign that contract? So sometimes the two sisters are getting along or not, or, you know.
Right. Or an estate or something, or a foreclosure, and it's a bank. You have
Exactly.
to know who has the right to sign that contract.
Exactly. So once we first order the search on the property, we need to find that out in order to search it properly. So even though the title insurance doesn't really require that we have, we just need to know if they're going to put it into a trust, does this trust actually exist?
Okay.
And because if it isn't, then a title agent is putting it in the situation where we need to know, is it insurable? That's the most important thing. A title agency actually is just issuing title insurance. Everything else that's on this list is a courtesy to help them get to the closing.
So your job technically is really just to issue title insurance. And
Exactly.
when you're doing your job of issuing that title insurance, you need to make sure all of these things are in place so that you can do it and insure it
Right.
with your name behind it.
Right, because if somebody, a lot of times on these contracts, it's, Bob Smith. Well, really, it's Robert Smith III,
Right.
something like that. So it's hard for us to figure out. That's why it's real important for the realtor to put really what is shown on that contract is what we need to do. But then we find out from DeLynn, who's doing their mortgage, that it's really, Robert Smith III
Right,
instead
not
of Bob
Bob.
Smith. Exactly. So those are real important things that we need to get to in order to be able to do our job properly. So sometimes we have to change or get an addendum to the contract because you have come up with a different way for us to title this guy. So.
So
those are things.
the upfront things. Now let's dive in. So when the search comes,
When the search comes, we have to figure out what we're going to do with it. If the people have any liens or judgments, can we cure these before we can say, yes, we can issue a commitment and we can do a policy for you? Some of these things take a while. If you're dealing with a, perfected lien, which it's kind of crazy, but a perfected lien means you record it twice. Does that make sense?
really? No.
Honest to God truth.
Wait, that it was accidentally recorded twice, or
No.
that you need to record it twice?
In order for it to be certified, it has to be recorded twice.
Is that all liens? No.
No.
Okay.
Gosh, there's a million different
sometimes.
and the county kind of is exempt according to the way that they are. For instance, right now, we are required since April of 2017 to do a multiple lien search, a municipal lien search. And that might include an open permit or not paid utility bill, different things like that. So now it's a little bit different than it was when we first started. I started doing title insurance 28 years ago. Yeah. Yep. In the womb, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But there's different ways that you have to perfect the title. The main thing is getting the payoffs for a mortgage or for a paving lien assessment or somebody that just put a lien on the property. So,
Can anybody just put a lien on the property? I know I'm running out of time here.
well, yeah, you pretty much can. My husband's a contractor, so he's run into situations where he didn't get his money. So he's had to go and to the courthouse and record a lien on the property. And that's how I found out it has to be recorded twice. Because
Certain
you know,
ones.
exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And we have some great stuff coming up. More to come. We'll be right back. Hi, and we're back with GGD, our Duchess of Dirt, our title queen. So Gigi has been going over some really important, really good information on title, and we're going to jump right back into it. So I know that we didn't get through a lot of, she's got like this lengthy list. Aren't you
Yes.
guys glad you don't have to do this?
I'll take care of it for you. Not a problem at all.
That's what she does. She takes care of it for you. Okay, so let's jump on.
Yeah, we were talking about the Homeowners Association just a second ago while we were on break.
Right.
And that's very important. We have to have approvals sometimes, and we also have to find out how much they pay and if it's paid in full at this time or when it's paid through. So those are things that are
'Cause
very
those-
important.
those
That's prorated
change
at closing.
per subdivision or whatever, right?
Exact-
You know,
oh
one
my
could
gosh.
be due in October, one could be due in July.
Yeah, and that's one tip I always give people too. Make sure that you can park your car that has your information on the side of it. You know, if it's on there permanently, there's a situation if they don't allow that. So you can take a magnetic sign off, but you can't take paint
Right.
off your car.
If
So
you've had your car wrapped, you're in
yeah,
trouble.
so those are different points that I give to people just to kind of help them along when I do the education on title insurance, and
Right.
you know that's all part of it too. But so now we're down to the point where we're ready to.
So we got the title search back.
Yep.
You're going through it. There's 15 liens from a window person and a this person and a that person.
Yes.
And you have to get all of those payoffs and everything. And you say
Correct.
to your seller, hey, how much did you think you were getting back?
Exactly. It's always right. Best way to kind of let people know what's going on, and that's what's very important is communication. Not just with your realtor that you're dealing with, but we really do need to talk to the customers and find out what's going on. So
So while I'm on the buyer side doing all the buyer stuff and education and background checks and everything, you're doing the same thing on the seller side. To
Correct.
make sure that they're able to turn clean title over.
Exactly. And you know, then we're ordering all these updates. Well, when it comes down to closing, we have to make sure those updates are current. So if it's out one day, we have to reorder a title payoff on a property or whatever it is that's necessary to make sure something isn't out of date, because sometimes things get pushed back a little bit.
And the municipal lien search you mentioned, if I can just ask real quick, because I'm not exactly sure I know what that is.
That is now, since April of 2017, we're required to check with the municipalities in the area. For instance, if there's a paving assessment,
Okay.
that was always recorded. But if somebody had an open permit, that is not recorded.
Oh,
So that's
gotcha.
why I was saying kind of the county is somewhat exempt from different things.
That's what
That's kind of what I
Okay.
meant by that.
Gotcha.
Right now, we're running across $45 charges to our customers all the time. These sellers are like, I didn't even know I had an open permit on my property. Well, I had a lady call me up the other day and said, hey, there's an open permit, and you did our title insurance, and you said everything's good. Well, we weren't required at that time to check with the municipalities. So that's a big thing that has happened in the last couple of years.
Oh.
So now the lady was like, oh, okay, I understand. I'm not mad at you anymore, Gigi. So that helpful. So the other thing is, once we finally receive the paperwork for the closing disclosure from the lender to put together the closing disclosure, now we have to get their approval on what we prepared. And we want the bank to take a look at it, the lender to take a look at it, make sure everything's perfect according to what they're looking at. And now we go to the real estate agents, make them double check different things that might be a big problem for them when they're sitting down and trying to explain things to their customers. So we're trying to educate the realtors too, so that when they're looking at this closing disclosure, they have an idea of exactly what they're going to have to explain to them or not. And we're always there available for questions. I'm a 24/7 girl. When the office closes at 5, 6 o'clock, I'm still there and ready to help you during a weekend.
Right.
So those are reasons that you kind of want to find somebody that's going to be on your team the whole way through. So, and we can't represent anybody because we don't do that. All we're doing is issuing a title
Providing a
insurance.
service.
Exactly. And all of this is just extra added attractions for the people.
Right, exactly.
So once we get approval, then we send it to the realtor. The realtor takes a look at it. If they have any questions, they might call me about it, or the girls in the office. And then we get permission to send it to the buyer and the seller so that they know what's going on in advance. The buyer is required 3 days ahead of closing to review and sign the closing disclosure. And I know that because of you.
Yes.
And now we're to the point where the banks looked at it, the realtors looked at it, the buyer and seller have reviewed it. Now we have to balance the closing statement to make sure.
Before we go, do you go over it with the buyer or the seller? Like if the seller, you've been talking to the seller, so do you kind of go over it so that he understands it ahead of time? Okay, and this is what, when we get to the closing tomorrow or, 2 days from now, this is what your bottom line is going to be.
I would say 90% of the time they do not contact me. prior to, unless they have a question,
Okay.
And yes, I'm happy to go over it
Right.
line by line with them to let them know exactly what each charge is. I just did a closing the other day, and it showed 2.75% commission, but the seller didn't have a commission. He didn't have a realtor. So it was just 2.75, not 2. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
So, in other words, we found out when I did go over it with the seller in advance, because I like to go to my sellers and tell them, hey, if you want me to close in your living room, I'll do it.
Right,
you don't have to
right.
sit through the buyer's package, which, sometimes is
Yes.
that bad. So, but we were going over it and found out that was on there double. 62.75 was the amount of the commission. So it was an issue that we had to take care of.
savings
Right.
for him.
And I called the girls. They take care of it right away.
Yeah.
And we'll be set for closing on Friday. So the seller doesn't have to have signature ahead of time, just the buyer.
Right. Right.
And then, so we go over and we have to balance our statement, make sure that all the checks that we're going to prepare and disperse for this transaction, that we balance to the penny as to how much the buyer's supposed to bring in, or the realtor's bringing in the earnest money deposit, or if we already have it, we have to make sure everything balances. And then, we're also working on the package to make sure a buyer has a copy of every piece of paper they're looking at, and the seller is looking at everything that they have signed. They have a copy of it as well. The only originals that they get are the closing disclosure and the Alta statement. That's the same that the realtors are going to need that too, to be able to get paid their commission on the transaction. So sometimes we find out that the realtor has a what's called a disbursement authorization, where that realtor is actually going to get their money at closing. So instead of having to get the money to the broker and then the broker get it back. And you're right, the time goes very fast here.
See?
So. But then again, too, we prepare different things, the FedEx labels, and get the
Right.
checks ready ahead of
Right.
time, so we don't have people delayed.
And I'm going to ask you when we come back, I'm going to break, but maybe just real quick before we go, actually, electronic packages and stuff. Have you started seeing some of those come through on some of the lenders? I know we at the mortgage firm, we do electronic closing packages, and it's something that we started with just our conventional, and we're growing it now to other types of loans as well.
You mean where the people can sign on
they e-sign like ahead of time.
Holy cow, that's wonderful. Yes, we love those. And we've been talking about that for about 22 years now.
Right.
So, yes, I'm excited about that.
I am too. All right, we will be right back.
Dude, I got this cool.
Consumer advocate, your host, and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
We're back with GGD and title, and I know this has gone so fast, and I appreciate all of the good information that you're giving us and everything. So let's do some wrap up. So, okay, so we have our person, we had the title, we've got everything balanced. It's signing day.
Yay, finally. A lot of people are saying finally.
I know.
Yeah.
All this work that you have gotten to this point, and now everybody is sitting around a closing table if they're not like, in, Minnesota or something.
Right.
So let's take it from there. What is your next steps?
Well, if they are in Minnesota and I'm sitting with one party or either party, sometimes nobody shows up. It's just, me and the
Gigi
realtor
by herself.
and I answer myself and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But basically, we sometimes have to do what's called a mail-away package, and we sticker it up so a third grader would be able to understand it and tell them, okay, this pile requires a notary. This pile you just sign and date. If it's pretty self-explanatory. And if it isn't, well, I'm there for a question, or I'm there for help trying to figure out. Now, there
Good.
are different parts of the closings that are finally coming. You were talking about e-packages
yes,
and stuff like that.
e-packages. Mhm.
Well, there is something also known as, I could be sitting in my living room in my jammies doing your closing for your buyer
Wow.
in a different state. So that's now coming to light. We are approved with our underwriter, West Core, to be able to do those kind of closings.
Oh,
so,
see, good.
so we're
Coming up with
know.
the technology is advancing, and we need to
We're
advance
finally
with it.
catching up
We're
with
not
it,
going to be
yes.
like, doing all these stickering packages anymore.
Yeah, well, sometimes you
is.
still have to. Everything depends on
know.
what the mortgage, the bank has
what
the money. They make the
and what
decisions.
the buyer or seller can handle, because I do find with, and you probably do too, with older people, they are not tech savvy. They don't want anything to do with it. They're just like, nope, just put a piece of paper in front of me and I'll sign it.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, that's where the repeat and referral comes from, because those people have been dealing with me for a long time, some of them for 29 years, and they trust me. I point, they sign, I pull, we're done. So it's easier that way too, when you've been dealing with somebody that's been dealing with you for a while. So that's I want to make them as comfortable as possible.
Right.
So I even call them ahead of time, say, okay, your package will be there at this specific time, and I'll be available.
And that's nice that you're available by phone for them to pretty much walk them right through the whole thing. That is very nice. That's a GIGI thing.
Well, you got to work it out that way.
I know.
I mean, that's the way you get the repeat and referral business. So.
All right, so let's talk
Don't
about
tell any other title companies.
Let's talk about post-close. So
Okay.
after everything's done and all the checks are dispersed and everybody walks away, your job's not done, is it?
Oh, no. But now's when it really gets started, because now is when I'm going to be issuing a title insurance policy.
Right.
And that's my job.
Right.
That part is really my job. So basically, when we receive the docs that need to be recorded back from the recording office, or if it was e-recorded, they do that now too, where you can
Right.
just throw it through your scanner, it goes right to the clerk's office, the clerk records it, and then you don't even
Issues
have
you
to
a
send
book
the
and
original.
page?
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
That needs to be reviewed, make sure again everything's okay. We update the title to the property again. We also call to make sure the satisfactions are recorded of record, or that they received the money that they were supposed to receive. And now, when do we get our satisfaction of mortgage? When do we get our release of lien? All those things need to be double checked. Then to issue the final policy is easy. With our software, we've got the best software in the world, Closer's Choice, and we pretty much can take all this information, put it right into the title policy, and then send the documents out to the new buyer and to the mortgage company. So, and then we scan everything into our computers, and we still have to hold on to the paper for a long time.
I was just going to say, and you're required by law to hold those for what, 3 years or 7 years?
Well, I always keep mine for 7, and the
Right.
reason why I did that is because there's certain documents that have to be held for 7 years.
Right.
So I
Just hold
keep
it all.
pretty much, I called them the top 5, and I'm an old school girl. It was the HUD one, the mortgage, the note, the till, the truth in lending, which is a till.
Which
and
they don't have anymore.
Exactly.
It's all on
and-
the CD now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
So,
The world's different.
Yep, and you got to learn to, move and groove with the
I
changes.
know, move and groove with it.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I wanted to touch on too, that you were saying, the recording of, so when you're recording the new mortgage and things like that, and you put the new mortgage on the title policy for the buyers and, send that off to them, the sellers do you get, so we're paying off, Bank of America or something. You get a satisfaction of mortgage from Bank of America, and are you responsible for recording that too? Or does Bank of America send it to the buyer, or rather the seller of the house, and then the seller is responsible for recording it? How does that work? Because so many times, it happened a lot with Barnett Bank.
Oh, yeah.
Barnett Bank, I don't know what they did, but I know it's come up so many times with Barnett Bank, and people are like, oh my God, I paid that loan off in, 2002.
Well, what happens is once we record the new transaction and we pay Bank of America or whoever, Barnett Bank, we also send them a little love note that says, hi, here's your money, here's a copy of your payoff statement that matches the check that is sent to you, and now we are demanding that there be a satisfaction of mortgage. Way back when, a lot of people received them with their original note and with their original mortgage so that they could go and throw it into the fire pit and burn it and have a celebration. Well, a lot of people were burning the satisfaction of mortgage, and it was not yet recorded of record, and we've had to go through and, again, that's the back end of the title where we're looking for the sats. And if it's not recorded, then we're going to have to do something. Now, there is a statute for each mortgage that, if it's matured after a certain period of time, then it's out by statute. So
otherwise, what are you guys doing? Are you hunting down sellers and saying, do you still, they sold this house back in 2002. You're trying to find that seller and see if they have their satisfaction of mortgage, or going back to Barnett Bank, who was sold to this one, sold to this one, sold to this one, and seeing if you can find it. What
the
kind of luck
world
do you
of
have
real
with
estate.
those? I know. See, you guys think this is all easy. Yeah. Not a lot of luck with that, huh?
Yep.
Well, Gigi, we could go on forever. I thank you so much for being with us and being a part of this.
I'm excited that I was able to sit down with you.
Thank you so much. As you guys know, please check out our nonprofit of choice, which is our West Pasco Business Association, WPBA.biz or WPBA.rocks. There's always some cool stuff going on. We've got a lightning game, I know, that's coming up on December 5th, I believe it is. There's probably still some tickets available, but those go quick. And then there is also our favorite one of our favorite events of the season is How the Grinch Saved Christmas, and that is something that we do to give back to people in the local community, families who are in need. So that's all coming up. Check out our website. It's all there, WPBA.biz or WPBA.rocks. We appreciate all of you watching. Share the show. Get it out. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Please share it. Please let other people know if you're enjoying this show. And if you have any questions, reach out to Gigi or Barry or I, and we are happy to answer your questions. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We are Today and Every Day. This is where you say moving forward.
Moving forward.
There you go.
I was being Barry then.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.